Hey, AP students, welcome. This is maybe a rude awakening when you get this email with this video, but I just wanted to make sure that when you come into class on Tuesday, you are already, getting prepared for this class, because next week will probably be a little bit of a blur, and you may not have the time needed to make sure that you have what works best for you. So I just thought I'd do this short little video to help you maybe come into class prepared on Tuesday. So AP Government is a great class. I'm glad you've decided to take it, and I want you to stay. It is a college prep class. We move really quite fast. And probably one of the markers of success is how organized you are. So I just want to let you know how you might prepare for this organization that you are required to do. I think, and you can do it lots of different ways, but you're going to have, something that you are going to designate as your AP folder. It could be a one subject notebook. Which is fine. It would be really ideal if it had folders in it, okay? Because you are going to be writing things down, and you're going to be getting a decent amount of handouts as well. So if you are doing a spiral bound, it would be great if it had folders in it as well. If not, maybe there's a separate place where you're keeping your the things that I hand out in class. So you could have potentially a three-ring binder where you put the things that I hand out, and then a notebook where you write them, or you could just do the three-ring binder with a folder and paper. So you should kind of think about that, what works best for me. As you're kind of thinking about it, then run to Target or Meijer and get what you need. And then the last thing I want to say is once you're writing things, you just need to be ready, because the way that you're going to make sense with the vast amount of data, the vast amount of details that we're working at in this class, is to maybe designate certain sections of your notebook paper for these areas. So you're going to be at times taking class notes. And those are things that I tell you in class, that it's like, hey, you're going to be reading about this tonight, or here's a concept that it's going to give you the background for what you're going to read tonight. Or I'll say something like, this is incredibly important. You need to write this down. And so there's going to be a class notes section. So you may, if you have your notebook, just write class notes and give that 20 or so pages of loose leaf that you are going to refer back to later. Okay. And again, you're going to probably write Unit 1 for the first unit, and then the class notes that we may talk about in class. Okay. In addition, I am going to give you reading notes. I'm going to give you readings, I should say, and then you're going to kind of take notes. There's going to be definitions in those readings. There's going to be concepts in those readings. We'll talk a little bit about what you decide to write or not write for that. Okay. So there's going to be a section there. And then the other two things about AP Government is there are going to be required documents. And so you may want to have a section. And there's going to be about 12 required documents that we're going to talk about. And you're going to have to sum them up, okay? And so this section doesn't have to be long, but you're going to, there's going to be maybe a half a page for each of these required docs where, for example, the first one is going to be like the Constitution of the United States. And you're going to have to, on the required docs, you're going to say, you're going to write down, not the whole Constitution, but what are the concepts that are important about the Constitution that helps us in this class, okay? Obviously, the Constitution is a really large document, but there's going to be other documents that aren't as large. It might be just something that's a page long, but it has an important concept that we're going to talk about. But you're going to summarize that in your notebook, okay? And then the last thing is there are 14 Supreme Court cases that you're required to know. So you're going to also take your notebook, and then at some point just say, maybe across the top, you're going to just say, what is the important, you're going to write Supreme Court cases here. And then when we cover all of those 14 throughout the semester, underneath that section, you're going to say, okay, the first case we do is something called U.S. versus Lopez. You're going to write U.S. versus Lopez, and then you're probably not even going to necessarily need a half a page, but maybe a third of a page to say, what did that Supreme Court case determine, and why is it important? So anyway, with that in mind, I kind of thought I would send this video out. And that way, maybe today, Friday, or Saturday, or Sunday, or Monday, you can make it to the store and kind of think through what's going to work for me. I'm going to go and I'm going to buy a notebook so that on the first day of class, when I start getting some of these handouts or I get things explained to me, I already kind of know, like I've thought about it already. And I have, that's one less thing to worry about on that first day. Okay, on the first day, I'm also going to give you a short reading. It is pages 9 to 12 in our book. I will send that to you now so you can jump ahead a little bit in that, just so that you say, hey, I've got games on those days, or I feel like I might be overwhelmed. That reading, 9 to 12, is pretty basic, and then you could take notes on the on the reading notes section. So that you already come into class already kind of getting a little bit of a taste of what the reading looks like. Okay, and on that I will tell you that those reading notes are going to be on something called the policy making cycle, so you just have to kind of read that section, and that becomes really important. So, and even if you don't get it right away, although you should, you can say, okay, he's going to explain it in class, and then we're going to come back to that policy making cycle a lot. So just wanted to give you a little heads up so that you are ready to go. Hope you have a great last weekend. I certainly don't want you to worry too much about school, but for some of you, it's like, I love that chance to get just a little bit ahead. So see you on Tuesday.